So the first thing you do is go back to the abnormal model, which you see on the table, the varus malunion, and you're just gonna put the pins in. And there's a 2mm drill bit, and I think the 2mm drill bit's better than using the pins themselves. You're gonna drill the hole, and then by hand, you can slide the pins in. So the first pin goes in at 90, then the next pin is gonna go in, at least in my drawing, at 20 degrees off from that at 70, and then the 25-degree wedge pin's gonna be placed in. And then the guide for the pin guide for the blade plate seating chisel, you'll have to use your goniometer in order to place this thing in. And in my particular case, I measured it out and just reproduced whatever I had on my drawing and put that pin in. Then I drew what my wedge was gonna be based on my preoperative plan. You can do this on the frontal and side plane. And then I drew in basically where my chisel path was gonna be. If you want to be real particular, you notice that there's a slight extension deformity in this patient. So if you want to, you can run your chisel just, the chisel path just slightly to the anterior side, but that makes it probably a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. Once again, you're going to figure out where the start is on your chisel path, I used this 25mm I measured on my drawing right here, and then the size of my wedge is gonna be 16mm on the outside, so I drew all that in. This is an important step right here. Now, because this bone is a little bit hard, you're gonna have to create a chisel path, and you're gonna start by using a 4.5 drill bit here, make a series of holes, and then you're gonna increase the size of those holes to create a little channel here using the router that's provided on your table. So this is a very important thing, because otherwise you're gonna cause the bone to explode apart in the proximal femur. You're gonna place the chisel in, and follow that guide pin that you placed in. And as long as you start at the right start point and follow that guide pin, it should finish up in the head in the exact right place. Maybe put a little bit of flexion correction into it. You're gonna seat this thing to a depth of about 60, maybe a little bit deeper so you have a little bit of free room. Set it down to 60 because that's the size of the blades that we have on the table. And then you're gonna make your osteotomy. Now I would recommend that you do the short limb first, and then after that, the longer limb. I think just find that a little bit easier to do when you take the wedge out. These blades that are provided on your table are a little bit short, so you're gonna have to raise your hand up over the top and have somebody stabilize it so you can cut through, and you wanna try to make as clean a cut as possible. The one thing we're gonna do now is we're gonna show you a technique on providing compression because there's an obliquity to this osteotomy right here. By creating a little bit of an offset right here with the plate off the bone and by fixing it flush against the bone down here, once you take this little wedge out, and there's a series of little, almost like foam-like wedges on the table that you can use for this we're providing, and you want to create this offset so that when you finally place the screw in, you're going to provide compression against that obliquity. And this is that final screw going in here. You see this gap that's being created. So as this thing is pushed in this way, you're gonna get compression against this surface, and that's gonna provide a lot of stability, and this is a way of doing offset compression. And you should have a final model when it's all said and done that looks pretty much like your preoperative plan, hopefully.